Well, should I say good evening? Shabbat Shalom for some people. It's Friday night and the feeling is right. And I'm thinking that I want to read something. Let me see. I'm going to have to go to my Finder here. I was thinking that it would be a good idea. I got Karma outside. Of course, she's wanting to. Let's see, what was it? What was it called? Emergency Banking Act. My dog is outside. Of course, she wants to yell and scream at. That's the one I want. I don't want that. She thinks that there's rats out there, which there could be rats. So I just let her go out there. But I'm hearing her scream bloody murder. Emergency Banking Act, of 1933. Let's just take a look and see what is this all about. That's a good question. Is the Emergency Banking Act still in effect? Let's see what Google says. Oh, look at that. The Emergency Banking Act is still in effect today. It's a successful act because it helped citizens regain trust in banks. Did it really? No, I don't think it helps citizens regain trust in banks. I think the banks are still raping us royal, which, a lot of people are going to be finding out soon enough. Why can't banks be closed for more than 3 days straight? Who did the Emergency Banking Act benefit? Let's just see what Google says. The Emergency Banking Act was historic in that it gave the United States president powers to act independently from the Federal Reserve in times of a financial crisis. Is that right? And yeah, well, so like the US president, that is a corporation. All right, let's just go over the Emergency Banking Act of 1933. Well, what is the purpose of it? Well, let's see. Let's just see what Google has to say about what is the purpose of it. The Emergency Banking Relief Act was quickly enacted by Congress to allow for the reopening of individual banks as soon as examiners found them to be financially secure. A fireside chat on March 12th, Roosevelt told Americans, "I can assure you that it is safer to keep your money in a reopened bank than under your mattress?" Is that what he was saying? Can U.S. banks be closed for 3 consecutive days? Let's see. Can we do that? Under federal law, the answer is yes. There is no rule, regulation, or guidance from the NCUA, which says that your credit union may not be closed for 4 consecutive days or more. Are you sure? Regulatory compliance. Can U.S. banks be closed? Okay. Can bank tellers see your balance without permission? Why do banks make you take 5 days off? What? What do you mean? This basic control has proven to be an effective internal safeguard in preventing fraud. In addition, such a policy is viewed as a benefit to the well-being of the employees, can be a valuable aid to the institution's overall training program, the FDIC says. What? 5-day vacation rule helps banks check security? Sounds a little fishy. Can a bank hold your check for 14 days? Yeah, I think so. Well, let me see. As mentioned above, banks can only hold checks for a reasonable period of time. Yeah, what would that be? In terms of how long it takes a check you deposit to clear, it generally ranges from 2 to 5 business days. All right. Well, there's a whole lot of things on here that could be controlled opposition. So we got to find out which is the one. Well, okay. So when I was in the university, they just did not like Wikipedia. But hey, we've seen a lot of WikiLeaks now, haven't we? So maybe I'm going to go on there. Emergency Banking Act, Wikipedia. The Emergency Banking Act, Public Law 73-1. Let's just go to that one. If they say don't go to it, I'm going to go to it because they lie to me all the time. So I'm just saying. What? Your screen sharing is paused? Whoa. I need to resume the share then. Not to this. No. Not to that. Go back. What? They made a few changes to my reading experience. Oh, wait a minute. Can we see this? Can you guys see this? I don't know. Let me just see. Wait, hang on a second, because wait a minute. Share the screen. What exactly are we sharing? A picture of my face? No. What happened? What's the deal? No. Darn it. I hate it when this happens. You are screen sharing. What am I screen sharing? I wanted to look at this, the Emergency Banking Act. Can you guys see that? I hope you can. So let me see here. The Emergency Banking Act, the official title of which was the Emergency Banking Relief Act, Public Law 73-1, 48 Statute 1, March 9th, 1933, was an act passed by the United States Congress in March 1933 in an attempt to stabilize the banking system. So it says that on March 4th, 1933, Delaware became the 48th and last state to close all its banks. What? Beginning on February 14th. Oh, Valentine's Day. 1933, Michigan, an industrial state that had been hit particularly hard by the Great Depression in the United States, declared a 4-day bank holiday. Fears of other bank closures spread from state to state as people rushed to withdraw their deposits while they still could do so. Within weeks, all other states held their own bank holidays in an attempt to stem the bank runs. Oh, with Delaware becoming the 48th and last state to close its banks on March 4th. Following his inauguration on March 4th, 1933, President Franklin Roosevelt set out to rebuild confidence. Let me see if I can make this larger. I did it. Okay. In the nation's banking system and to stabilize America's banking system. On March 6th, he declared a 4-day national banking holiday that kept all banks shut until Congress could act. During this time, the federal government would inspect all banks, reopen those that were sufficiently solvent, reorganize those that could be saved, and close those that were beyond repair. Passage of the Emergency Banking Act, a draft law prepared by the Treasury staff during Herbert Hoover's administration, was passed on March 9th, 1933. The new law allowed the 12 Federal Reserve banks to issue additional currency. Oh, does that mean they printed more money? On good assets. So that banks that reopened would be able to meet every legitimate call. The Emergency Banking Act, an amendment to the Trading with the Enemy Act. What? Of 1917? What? Was introduced on March 9th, 1933 to a joint session of Congress and was passed the same evening amid an atmosphere of chaos and uncertainty, as over 100 new Democratic members of Congress swept into power determined to take radical steps to address banking failures and other economic malaise. The Emergency Banking Act was one of President Roosevelt's first projects in the first 100 days of his presidency. The sense of urgency was such that the act was passed with only a single copy. Oh my gosh, are you kidding? Available on the floor of the House of Representatives, and legislators voted on it after the bill was read aloud to them by Chairman of the House Banking Committee, Henry Stegall. Copies were made available to senators as the bill was being proposed in the Senate after it had passed in the House. Oh, well, we'll read it after it passes, said Nancy Pelosi. Not at that time, though. According to William L. Silber, the Emergency Banking Act of 1933 passed by Congress on March 9th, 1933, 3 days after FDR declared a nationwide bank holiday, combined with the Federal Reserve's commitment to supply unlimited amounts of printed currency to reopen banks. Created 100% deposit insurance. On March 12th, the evening before the banks began to reopen, FDR gave his first fireside chat, a national radio address explaining the alterations made by the federal government on the banking industry due to confidence in FDR and the proposed alterations. Americans returned $1 billion to bank vaults in the following week. Wow. So public reaction, much to everyone's relief, when the institutions reopened for business on March 13th, 1933, depositors stood in line to return their stashed cash to neighborhood banks. Within 2 weeks, Americans had redeposited more than half of the currency that they had squirreled away before the bank suspension. The stock market registered its approval as well. On March 15th, 1933, the first day of stock trading after the extended closure of Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining 8.26 points to close at 62.10, a gain of 15.34%. As of October 2020, the gain still stands as the largest one-day percentage price increase ever. In hindsight, the nationwide bank holiday and Emergency Banking Act of March 1933 are seen to have ended the bank runs that plagued the Great Depression. You know what the bank runs were? Everybody's like running to the bank to take out all the money that they deposited in there. Kind of like, you know, when they did the scamdemic and everybody was running to the grocery store to get toilet paper. Yeah. And meat and all that. Hoarding becomes a crime. Oh, hang on a second. I gotta go see if my child needs to come in. Are you out there, Karma? You want to come up? Karma, you coming up? You gonna stay out there a little bit longer? You coming? Oh, I see. No, Cora, you stay there. Come on up. Okay, Cora, you go home. That's what that's. So Cora was out there, huh? Yeah, it's chilly, really cold out there. You need to be in a warm bed in here. Get inside of there, girl. I can hear a train going by. Okay. Let's read about this hoarding thing. Hoarding gold. Oh my goodness. Hoarding gold becomes a crime. 1 month later, on April 5th, 1933, that was 1 month later, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102, criminalizing the possession of monetary gold by any individual, partnership, association, or corporation. And Congress passed a similar resolution in June 1933. That's where they said, you're gonna have to turn in your gold. If you hang on to it, if you, well, let's click on that, shall we? Let's see. The executive order was made under the authority of the Trading with the Enemy Act. Woo. Forbidding the hoarding of gold coin. Wow. So it says Executive Order 6102 is an executive order signed on April 5th, 1933 by U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt forbidding the hoarding of gold, gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates within the continental United States. The executive order was made under the authority of the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917, as amended by the Emergency Banking Act in March 1933. The limitation on gold ownership in the United States was repealed after President Gerald Ford signed a bill legalizing private ownership of gold coins, bars, and certificates by an act of Congress codified in Public Law 93-373, which went into effect December 31st, 1974. So this is the rationale. The stated reason for the order was that hard times had caused hoarding of gold, stalling economic growth, and worsening the depression, as the U.S. was then using the gold standard for its currency. On April 6, 1933, the New York Times wrote, under the heading, Hoarding of Gold, the executive order issued by the president yesterday amplifies and particularizes his earlier warnings against hoarding. On March 6, advantage of a wartime statute that had not been repealed, he issued Presidential Proclamation 2039, here it is right here, that forbade the hoarding of gold or silver coin or bullion or currency under penalty of $10,000 fine or 10 years imprisonment or both. The main rationale behind the order was actually to remove the constraint on the Federal Reserve, preventing it from increasing the money supply during the Depression. The Federal Reserve Act, 1913, required 40% gold backing of Federal Reserve notes that were issued. By the late 1920s, the Federal Reserve had almost reached the limit of allowable credit in the form of Federal Reserve demand notes, which could be backed by the gold in its possession. See Great Depression. So here's the effects right here. Executive Order 6102 required all persons, here we go, to deliver on or before May 1st, 1933, all but a small amount of gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates owned by them to the Federal Reserve in exchange for $20.67, equivalent to $433 in 2021 per troy ounce. Oh. Under the Trading with the Enemy Act, as amended by the recently passed Emergency Banking Act of March 9th, 1933, a violation of the order was punishable by fine up to $10,000, equivalent to $209,000 in 2021, up to 10 years in prison, or both. The order specifically exempted customary use in industry, profession, or art, a provision that covered artists, jewelers, dentists, sign makers, etc. The order also permitted any person to own up to $100 in gold coins. Oh. So you could own up to $100 in gold coins. Okay. A face value equivalent to 5 troy ounces, 160 grams of gold, valued at approximately $10,000 in 2020. Wow. Huh. The same paragraph also exempted gold coins having recognized special value to collectors of rare and unusual coins, which protected recognized gold coin collections from legal seizure and likely melting. The price of gold from the Treasury for international transaction was then raised by the Gold Reserve Act to $35 an ounce, equivalent to $733. Wow. That's wow in 2021. The resulting profit that the government realized funded the Exchange Stabilization Fund. It's an emergency reserve fund of the United States Treasury Department, normally used for foreign exchange intervention. This arrangement allows the U.S. government to influence currency exchange rates without directly affecting domestic money supply. Established by the 1934 Gold Reserve Act. The regulations prescribed in the executive order were modified by Executive Order 6111 on April 20th, 1933, both of which were ultimately revoked and superseded by Executive Orders 6260 and 6261 on August 28th, 29th, and 1933, respectively. Executive Order 6102 also led to the extreme rarity of the 1933 double eagle gold coin. The order caused all gold coin production to cease and all 1933 minted coins to be destroyed. Whoa. About 20 illegal coins were stolen, leading to an outstanding U.S. Secret Service warrant for arrest and confiscation of the coin. Illegalized surviving coins sold for over $7.5 million in 2002, making it one of the most valuable coins in the world. Huh. Goes on to tell about prosecutions, which I don't need to read all that. Subsequent events and abrogation. Hoax of safe deposit box seizures. Interesting. Similar laws in other countries. Causes of the Great Depression, blah, blah, blah. Interesting. Huh. The Emergency Banking Act. Interesting. So what does it all mean? Write down below what you guys think that this means, because you know how like things can happen all over again. If we don't remember the past, if we don't remember the past, then those things can happen again. What do you think is happening with our banks right now? You see HSBC, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Chase, all those banks. What's going on? Well, people are saying stuff like their money's missing, stuff like that. I mean, I got a letter that said I had some money coming to me. I'm like, okay, I need to get on that. I don't know what that was all about, but I'm just saying. It's important for us to know what's going on, know what acts they are passing, and know why. So if you have any information about why the Emergency Banking Act is still going on, it's because we're still under emergency orders. And I think my dog is having an emergency, so I gotta let her out. But we'll talk again. We'll read some other stuff.